Welcome back, and we're straight into it this week. Here I am fly cutting the underside of the plate that's going to be used to extend the holding area on the saw. Now the extension plate is bolted back on, and I'm doing a light cut of about 10 thou over the entire surface to get everything coplanar. Right, so what's happened is, because I'm making this up as I go along with just a rough idea of what I want to do, I bollocks things up. Not terribly. but I didn't adequately measure where the blade of the bandsaw actually comes. So I've had to put the cutting head back on just so that I can mark where the blade sits on the new table. And you see it's not running parallel, but that's because I've got to move the head about a little bit. I've just got the head temporarily attached enough to get it lined up. Yep, that's where it goes. That's not ideal. I'd like to have been a little further away from that join, so I could have maybe cut this back a bit further, but it really doesn't matter. I'm clear. I just want to mill a little clearance slot here. So that's next. Right, here we are back again. So I've now got a slot open up for the blade on the new plate. And if I didn't mention it before, the reason I was fly cutting the underside of that at the start of the video was so that both sides of this cold rolled steel plate got machined a similar amount to eliminate any distortion from stresses, and that seems to have worked. This has stayed plenty flat for what it's going to do. So happy about that. And I've marked out the position of the slot by simply using a piece of wire on the pivot marked so that I could trace that out. And what I'm going to do, I've started nibbling away, and I'm going to nibble a little bit more out to extend the ability of the fence to move this way so that I can get a 30-degree bevel cut. And then I've been playing with some of the strap clamps that I have, strap clamps. I keep calling these toe clamps. That's not what they are. Someone pointed that out to me. They're strap clamps. So I've just been kind of playing around with position and getting a feel for where I'm going to put some tapped holes. And all of that is next. So I'm going to put some 1032 holes along here. That's for these small clamps, which Joe Pye made these. And some bigger 3/8-16 holes for these larger clamps. And I don't think that's a feature that will get used a lot, but I think once in a while I'll need it, and that will be very useful. Now I'm going to call that far enough. I don't want to take this entire wall out, and based on what I saw before, I only needed to come over a very tiny amount, like a 1/16 of an inch, and I've come way more than that, which should allow me to make a custom nut, non-rotating nut, to go in there and follow the slot. I'll need to just take a file to the edges here and clean those up a bit, but that should now give me a full swing to a 30-degree sharp angle cut, so that's great. That's good. Nice flat surface to bolt my stop to. Happy about that. These two counterboard through holes are just to mount a bracket that can be used to hold a stop or something else, because I machined away the original hole that's used to mount a stop. Right, well, that's the work on the top side basically done. Got position for the stop block, slot elongated, clamping holes, everything's good. So now what I'm going to do is unclamp it, turn it over. I've probably got to do a little bit of work on the underside where I extended this slot, and there's some deburring on the underside to do. So we're underneath the base now, and there's a ridge here in the casting, which is part of the guide for the jaw nut. And thinking about it, I was going to notch that out. It goes under here, thus. If I notch that out, that will be a problem feeding that. So I'm not going to notch it all the way out. But what I will do is square this corner off here so that I can get my clamp over a bit more. Right, I'm going to partly notch it. I'm going to clean it up some, but I'm going to leave a continuous ridge so as to not make this catch. So I'll clean it up to there. Won't go beyond that. All right. That'll do. That gives us a little more chance of getting the clamp nut over. That'll be just fine. Well, that was a lot of drilling and tapping, but that's got us set up for success. The main base of the bandsaw is now complete, and I've got tapped holes and a nice platform for different kinds of holding. Because I decked off the top of that just a little bit, 5 or 10 thou, that has impacted a few things, and I've had to dress up the pivot on the stationary jaw, well, pivoting jaw, to make sure that that doesn't pinch. And I've had to do the same on the moving nut that moves the sliding pivot. But we'll call that it for this part of the series. Next part, we'll be making some of the accessories that go on top and just make the whole thing work out. So thank you to everybody that subscribed after the last video. A whole bunch of people subscribed, and that got a lot more attention than my videos usually get, which is awesome, and I really appreciate it. Not only that, I had a ton of positive comments and suggestions about things to do, some of which I'm incorporating, some of which I was already going to do, whole mixture of stuff, but overall, brilliant response, which I'm stoked about. So, hope you come back for the next one, which I think will be a little bit more interesting than this particular episode, and we'll start seeing this saw come back together. In the meantime, stay safe and well. All the best of the holiday season to you, and as always, may your dimensions be in tolerance and your surface finishes chatter-free. Be seeing you.